Hello and welcome back to the Scaling Europe show. I'm Seb Johnson. I'm here with Jonas and Nicolas, who have just announced a $4.8 million seed round led by Frontline Ventures. Thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thanks
Seb.
a lot.
Happy to be here.
Amazing. Look, I'm,
Uh,
I'm so thrilled with you. This is absolutely great news. For those of you who don't know Donna, maybe Nicolas, can you give us like a super high level introduction? What is the business?
yeah, so Donna is the proactive assistant for field sales reps. So imagine you've a manufacturing company, you have a field force of about 100, 200 people there, sometimes up to several thousands of field reps. They're going out from one meeting to the next. They're really literally going into manufacturing plants, meeting rooms. They drive a lot in their car. And when they actually are traveling from one meeting to the next, they can actually call Donna and they can drop all of their notes, their follow-ups, basically kill all of their sales admin. So by the time they go to the next meeting, they don't have anything to do anymore with the previous one. And on top of that, they're getting coached by Donna how to approach the next meeting. They know actually perfectly what their day looks like. So they're basically having a perfect assistant like you would have an inside sales or someone that would be by your side 24/7. It gives so much time back to the rep so they can devote more time to selling, which is, of course, the goal for everyone here. And it gets actually CRMs adopted or the systems that they typically should use now finally adopted.
Amazing. And there's a lot of go-to-market tools that we're seeing come up in the kind of the age of AI. This is the first one I've seen about field sales agents specifically. What about that segment has made you want to build a product for them?
Yeah, both me and Nicola have experience in selling into big companies, and we were talking about what can we do with AI for sales. And we were talking to these big companies, and they were just telling about the pain of spending millions on a CRM system and not having any data on it. So very difficult to apply any sales enablement solution without any data on it. And yeah, it was a bit of a aha moment, I think, when it came up like twice or three times on three different potential customers. We said like might be a nice thing to do something here in this industry.
And you're live with a bunch of clients already, some really big names out there. Can you touch maybe again on like the product side? What does it look like as a person who's out in the field? How am I interacting with the product with Donna, and kind of what are the benefits that I'm seeing?
Yeah, it's very interesting. We try to make it UI wise very light. So it's we have a mobile app. It looks very similar to WhatsApp or iMessage. You can just phone with Donna, text her. So the interaction, we try to make it as much as possible as interacting with a real personal assistant. But the most used feature is really calling with Donna. It's also a good connection with CarKit. So people just tend to call her up when they're in the car and just phone with her, speak with her. She's asked questions and they have just a natural conversation. I think that's the most important interface that we have built to interact with our tool.
Amazing. And like the round is an amazing achievement, $4.8 million, Frontline Ventures. What was it that enabled you to unlock this round right now?
Ultimately, our journey started, I think, about 1.5 years ago. We were ideating, let's say 2 years ago, but 1.5 years ago, we basically launched a little movie that was basically representing this persona, this salesperson on the go, running from one meeting to the next, and then basically scrambling with notes in his car. Now that little movie was like 2 minutes. It pretty much like went viral, and it literally unlocked reactions from all around the globe. We got basically from Australia to Mexico, people dialing in and say like, hey, we really understand, we see this problem. When is this solution coming? So 1.5 years ago, we had like sort of an MVP small solution. We rolled it out for a couple of pilot customers. Now, from these pilot customers, 95% basically stayed on board and, let's say, unlocked it for the larger part of their organization, which obviously was a great sign for us, but a great sign for our investors as well. Like this, you could be really onto something. And I think when at the beginning of this year, we really had like very big names knocking on our doors, like saying, yeah, but we have huge field sales teams. Is this actual solution also scalable? And then we proved that the solution is scalable, having Donna talking with people in Mexico, Indonesia, in 40 plus languages, that was sort of the moment when, we and the outside world were like even more excited because we could now tackle an actual problem with a highly scalable solution and then deploy it internationally. That with the fact that we also got partners like Deloitte, PwC that officially like embraced us and basically brought us into several of the largest manufacturers, life sciences companies, insurers with big field sales teams. I think all of those elements together just accumulated and resulted in this round.
So those partnerships that you have with some of those big firms, what does that look like in practice? Are they taking your tool and helping their customers or clients implement it? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, the every organization today is trying to understand what can we do with AI. And if you look at how they typically operate, they will say like, hey, what are the different use cases that we could enable? And interestingly, we have been identified so many times as sort of the top three. Maybe they make a list of 30 and they say like these top three are the ones that we're going to embark on. And because Donna has such a quick time to value, you can easily prove it, you can easily scale it. It has caught the attention of, let's say, the big advisory firms that actually are working on commercial excellence, but also on technology advisory. And typically, those are the two angles that those companies are very much advising the leading companies in the world. And of course, they need to make sure that the advice they give is indeed going to have a big return on investment, a fast return on investment, and is also going to be like at the cusp of disruption, certainly with everything that's going on in the world with AI. So I think sort of those two roads of, let's say, advisors that really want to give the best advice on commercial excellence side, technology side, and us, trying to also break into those, those segments inside the companies.
And
We're
that's
talking to the same personas.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing validation to get those partners on board. I used to work at PwC, so I can understand the value that they can bring to like a business like yours. How is
Wonderful.
that shaping the way that you're thinking about international expansion? Like a lot of these players like PwC or Deloitte, whatever, they have offices all over the world. They have hubs everywhere. Does that mean that you're being pulled in certain places? Are you able to get in with one office or one location and then try and spread your way across Europe or the US? How is that relationship changing international expansion for you?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So of course we have a Belgian sort of start headquarter. We were immediately picked up by the local PwC, Deloitte branches, and I think what typically happens is that the word spreads across EMEA, commercial excellence leadership, and then further spreads across the pond into the US. And that's ultimately what happened, right? It's again, there's a lot of sharing going on between the different membership firms, and we have other partners that, let's say, work, let's say, also across different offices. They spread this knowledge, and the other partnerships like that we have with the CRM parties, like Salesforce, like SAP. Yeah, it's very similar, right? It always starts from like a little seed, and then it spreads, let's say, on a global scale. Of course, naturally, and yeah, getting into that topic is that for on the US side, if once it's basically spread across the pond, sometimes a bit easier because there's only like one firm on the US side of things, and then you get a multiplication effect that's even more that's even bigger than in Europe.
And so, how are you thinking about US expansion? Are you live there with customers yet? I know that it's part of the expansion plans coming up. It'd be good to hear about the footprint you have today versus where you want to be in a year.
Yeah, I'll let's say give a go at that question, and I'll hand it also over to Jonas, because of course it's on the one hand it's go to market and sales, but it's also making sure that actually the product is really scaled across. Let's say on the go to market side, we immediately, like from the get go, already like 1.5 years ago, we knew that whatever we're going to do on field sales, it is a global, it's a global company, it's a global and general problem and solution that basically, if you look at the CRM companies like Salesforce, it's used globally. It's used across so many languages, so many countries. So for us, it was critical to have immediately boots on the ground in the US, which we had already last year in New York. But of course, we stayed low, and we first wanted to land our some big logos in the US. Now we actually see that we have almost 50-50 when it comes to, let's say, US versus European pipeline, and it's actually going to switch very, very near term to becoming actually more of a US operation in terms of go-to-market and sales and opportunities there. But of course, that's the go-to-market side. We're going to move over sales talent that we have, of course, let work in Europe. We're going to move it over there, but also on the product and on the configuration side, Jonas.
Yeah, indeed. Like the new configuration, you probably also already heard the term the forward deployed engineer. Fine tuning is a new configuration. So it's very important for us, both in the pre-sales aspect as in the post-sales, that we have these forward deployed engineers or solution engineers close to the clients to really fine tune how Donna needs to speak, what the playbook is, but also connect to their calendar, CRM system, ERP, to make sure that Donna has access to the required systems. And for that, we need, of course, boots on the ground too in the US. And also we see it even during the sales process, because it's AI and they're just bombarded with so many AI vendors that these big enterprises, they really want to make sure, like, is it real? They often call to our customers to double check if it's really working. But we also do some proof of concepts to really take away any doubt, to make sure that they really also see the full potential of Donna.
And how are you thinking about building the technical team? A lot of the founders that I speak to who are doing like go-to-market in the US, they then build highly technical product-focused teams in Europe, and it's sort of like build in Europe, sell in the US. Is that how you're thinking about it as well? Or do you think you'll end up building a product team out there as well?
Yeah, our current strategy is indeed that the engineering team, our product engineering team, is very closely together because we already were second founders. We and our CTO, we were able to grab some talent from our previous adventures to Donna, which is currently based in Ghent, in Belgium. And it's very nice for them to be in the same office to really work quickly on features and to release very quickly. But I think in the future, if we really need to look for very much some technical expert in a certain matter, we would be open, of course, for remote positions. But the main thing, like you say, indeed, we want to keep probably our engineering in Europe. And then with the exceptions of some forward deployed engineers or solution engineers, we will have to go to market indeed, scaled more globally.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said, Nicholas, about building global from day one. Lots of founders that I speak to have that mentality, especially when they're coming from a smaller European hub. So I wanted to know, like, what's it like building in Ghent? Ghent is not one of the biggest European tech hubs. It's not like Stockholm or London. How have you found building from that environment? Did you find access to capital was still easy? Access to talent was still easy? How did you find that process?
I can very quickly answer that. Let's say, actually, it was not at all that difficult because, in a way, Ghent is the up and coming sort of star when it comes to European tech hub. There have been so many successful stories now from companies, big access to capital. And obviously, Jonas and I actually are from Ghent, and we have actually had our previous companies. We've had exits, but together with us, so many more entrepreneurs that basically provided us with angel funding in the first part of our journey very quickly. So that I think was super nice for us, and also
Yeah,
on the building side, Jonas.
Yeah, we closed our first pre-seed round in 3 weeks, and we wanted to raise 1.5 million, and we had 3 million in commitments. So it just went very fast. So access to capital indeed was not an issue in that stage. Sorry,
Amazing.
Nicola, go ahead.
No, it's great news. No, and yeah, it's amazing to hear, and it definitely feels like that's a trend, that it doesn't really matter where you build. And that's what I hear from founders time and time again, that this idea that you have to be building in San Francisco or New York or London or Paris to get access to capital is no longer true. And I also want to touch on both of your backgrounds, right? This is both of yours like, well, this is definitely not your first venture, right? You've both had successful exits in the past. I want to know, as successful entrepreneurs, there's probably lots of things that you could have built. There's probably lots of businesses, especially in the age of AI. What about this industry or this problem really excited you?
Yeah, I think my background was in financial technology. So I had a company called Cashforce. We also built a global company selling to big corporates, cash management and forecasting solutions. So something very different than, of course, today. On the other hand, let's say I experienced firsthand how difficult it was to actually operate as a salesperson in the field. So I had a sales team which was literally going from one meeting to the next, typically meeting in person. And what was interesting there is that there's a little anecdote that actually led to the creation of Donna. And that anecdote was that there was a VP sales that was, and a lot of times next to me in cabs or cars, and that was actually constantly on the phone. And at one point I said, like, hey, but who you're always talking to? And he was actually talking to my assistant called Donna. And he was basically making sure that his follow-ups were done, events were planned, his CRM was actually being updated. So when I confronted him with that, he said, like, yeah, but I really hate doing all the sales admin. I want to spend more time selling. So I think that story always stuck with me. And it ultimately, that was why I was so passionate about finding a solution ultimately for people that are inherently focused on that social contact and getting deals done through human interaction. And I think that is, in the age of AI, that was really something that I always thought, like, we can't get away from that human interaction that ultimately these deals depend on. But of course, we can help them by making sure that all of their time is actually better spent. So that was that led ultimately to Donna.
And what lessons have you learned? And I'd like to hear from both of you on this. Like, what are the biggest mistakes or learnings? One of the things that people always talk about is that first-time founders focus on product, second-time founders focus on distribution. And, that's sort of like I don't know how true that is. It's just like a nice catchphrase or whatever. But, what are the things that you learned from the first time round that you're now very conscious of and applying the second time round?
I think the analogy is actually pretty good because, of course, you learn in the beginning, in the first time founder journey, you focus so much on the product and maybe a bit too less on the go to market. I think from day one now we really focused on finding clients, speaking to clients, and just making sure, of course, we had the resources to build the product in parallel. We have Xander, our CTO, who's also doing a very capable job, and then managing the product and the technology. But I think one of the main benefits is really like, indeed, we know how to raise, we know what the terms are based on previous experience. So that went very fast. We know talent. We have made, I think, a lot of mishires in the past in our previous journey. All the best ones or the good ones we were able to grab along on this journey. So faster access to capital, hiring the good talents also faster. So getting to a point that where we are now actually went very fast. We didn't need to overthink. It was a bit of based on a gut feeling and experience without too much overhead. So I think with the baggage we both have, we were able to just get to a similar point in time, but a lot more faster, which is a good thing to have, especially with AI. Everything goes very fast. So it's good that we have that experience to also make sure that we can manage the company and grow it, and then also in a very fast way.
Amazing. What about you, Nicholas?
Um, in a way, similar, but I would say if you're a second-time entrepreneur, you're basically sailing a little bit faster at sea because you see a little bit less clouds. As a first-time entrepreneur, you're sort of seeing all fog around you, and you're on a ship and you don't know where the iceberg is, so you have to be, let's say, a bit slower. Now you can just sail a lot faster. There's less fog, or at least the fog is a little bit further, so you can just sail faster. So I think all of I would say the gut feel or the experience that you've built in every decision ultimately on scaling, on product attention, on partnerships, on the go-to-market side, but equally just on hiring indeed. I think that instinct of who would be the right talent at the right stage, because that's, of course, every stage has its talent. Particularly that one is something we have a lot of comfort now that we will not doubt too much. We just will make the decisions and go forward with that. So you don't need that much time to make decisions, because you can trust a lot more your instinct and your experience that you have built. But as always, there's so much new things to learn, because it's a different market, a new situation. So I think both Jonas and I also try to not be polluted by the fact, oh, we're doing this for the second time, so we know everything. I think, yeah, we're just boots on the ground, or how do you say that? We're into it as much as we are
Yeah,
the
it makes
first time.
sense. And what about specifically on the round and the fundraising? Do you think it's something people always say that repeat founders are always what VCs are looking for, and that it gives them the confidence and the conviction to back a founder again once they've been successful? Was that something that you felt? Was it something that you think the people who've backed you this time, both in your earlier round and this round, really valued? Was knowing that you're sort of seasoned entrepreneurs?
Definitely, it is. It plays a role, and for the reasons that we mentioned. So the fact that you have seen, let's say, several things already in the past, so they know that in terms of decision making, there's always a portion that goes wrong, but let's say the majority, at least, is estimated to be more right than wrong. So definitely that plays a role into it. But we're also, again, in different times. Let's say the fact that you're working on AI is now just, for everyone the same. Everyone is working on AI. So the fact that we are working on, let's say, this particular problem, which is an unsolved problem for so long, and the opportunity is so big, that I think also plays really into the entire story. And then the fact, of course, that we have this proven traction, and this again, incredible opportunity on a global scale is important. So for
Yeah,
investors.
and to add to that, they know that we have experience with the also the emotional roller coaster. Let's be honest, and of being an entrepreneur, and I think that also gives a bit of comfort that we know what we're doing on that level too. So yeah.
Yeah, and it makes total sense. I just always like speaking to second time founders, because I think first time founders are always very envious of second time founders and how much easier it is to raise money. But I'm always curious to hear how true that is. But like, one final question, right? You've raised this money, you're seeing good traction, you've got great partnerships, you've built the team, you've achieved a lot in a short space of time, and you've now kind of capitalized yourselves to achieve even more. What is it that you want or need to achieve in the next 12 or 18 months to make this a success?
It's fairly simple. We have to grow. So we have an ambition to grow 5 times what we are today. Now, in order to do that, we need adoption, and we need, let's say, further distribution. So, and I think the way that we already set ourselves up for success in terms of distribution is making sure that we have these partnerships. So, and of course, extend that, build on the existing partnerships and build new partnerships, build a team in order to support that. So literally grab the market as it's there. The opportunity is there. So I think that's theme number one. And of course, let's say, making sure that our product keeps becoming better and better and better, to make sure that the adoption is there. Because ultimately the product itself is, as we've seen, is easy to sell in a way, because the time to value is so quick, and people can, in a very scalable way, adopt it. And of course, then the ultimate goal is there to make sure that a salesperson adopts it so quickly, so it basically sells itself inside the enterprise.
Amazing. Well, it sounds great, and it sounds like you've got an amazing plan. You've now got the money to execute on it. So, well, look, thank you both so much for joining me. Congratulations again, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys grow.
Amazing.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Seb.
Seb.
Thank you.